Hey guys, it's Oscar. I'm here for a Shave of the Day recap. Now, what I used today was I tried to do things that I acquired, that I either acquired at the Big Shave West or stuff from people who were at the Big Shave West. So, I didn't go crazy and spend a bunch of money there like a lot of people did. It was my third time, and not to say that the novelty had worn off or anything, but you know, I'm just right at a point right now kind of where I'm just, you know, there's not a whole lot out there that I'm just dying to get. There are a few things, and they're on the list, but, you know, for some people it was their first trip, and I see some of the pictures of the hauls that they got, and there was people that definitely spent some dough there. So, but what I did here was it was either samples or it was stuff from participants, at the Big Shave West. You know, every year we get a bunch of samples, and I've never really done anything. I mean, I've used some of them, but I've never really, you know, brought those to your guys' attention. So I wanted to try to do that today. And the sample of soap I used today, there's a little bit of a story behind it, and I'll get into that in a second. But first, if you saw, I attached the picture of Roberto Fuentes posted in Shave the Man and a couple of the other Facebook groups, that what happened to his Butterscotch Simpsons chubby brush. If you saw it, check it out. Roberto Fuentes in Shave the Man. That's where I saw it. It was evidently, it didn't even fall far. It just fell out of his hand into the sink, and it just broke. Just like I'm sure his heart broke. And when we see the pictures, it's just sad. Moment of silence. So, in order to kind of honor the memory of his Simpson, I don't have a Simpson, but I have something similar. I have the Manchurian Club brush by Peter Charkalis's Shaving Club online. This is similar to the design of some of the Simpsons brushes, which is part of why I bought it. But it's just a classy looking it's just a classy looking design, simple but classic. And the reason I haven't cleaned it out yet was the soap I used was just, I mean, this was, you know, after a 3-pass shave, and there's still, look at the peaks. That seemed to be a joke at the Big Shave West, inside joke if you were there, you know. So I'm just gonna, I didn't do all the cleanup yet because I wanted to share that with you. So I'll clean the rest of this out later. So Roberto Fuentes, sorry bro. I don't know if you'll ever see this, but I'll tag you in the post, but I feel for you, man. I had my, it's not exactly the same, but it kind of is. I had my St. James of London black pepper and lime soap cream jar fall off the sink a couple weeks ago, and it was one of those things where you know it's gonna fall and you reach for it in slow motion, and it's just always beyond your reach, and you can never get it, and then inevitably crash. It's sickening. It's a sickening sound. But anyway, so I used Peter's Manchurian, kind of in honor of Roberto Fuentes, in honor and memory of his Simpsons brush that met its untimely and sad and ugly demise this morning. So, lather it up in, put a little bit of the soap in the bottom of my Diego Thermal Scuttles Michael Sanchez Scuttle, hand painted and hand striped by Mondo Cardenas. So I'll clean that out in a little while. Mondo, again, congratulations on the success of your first venture at the Big Shave West selling, and I'm real happy for you, bro. I'm really happy for you. So continued success, and everybody who picked up one of these, you will not be disappointed. These things are fantastic. So, I did pick up a couple things. Actually, let me talk about the razor real quick. Woo-hoo-hoo. Picked up the Anubis aftershave that Rob was finally able to put out. He just started putting out aftershaves and splashes, and This is fantastic, man. 25 bucks. So price wise, it's a little on the higher end, right there on par with all the PAA stuff. But the performance, the scents are amazing, fantastic. I already had the soap, but like I said, I wanted to use stuff that I got from the event, and I already had the soap, so I picked this up, and I was very excited when I saw it, smelled it, and just I couldn't put it down. Kept smelling, and I finally used it today to follow up the soap. Now I'm gonna put this aside so I don't kill it like what almost just happened just now. So get into the brush. I'm going to talk about the soap lastly because I want to talk about it a little bit longer. So last time I was in Pasadena, not this time, but back in March, Maria picked this up for me. I've done I believe one video with it. It is the Bakelite Slant from Phoenix. They only had the black and the white on hand there at the Old Town Shaving Company, but it's still really cool. The ox blood, I believe, is a red color one. They didn't have that on hand, and if they did, definitely would have got that one. But the black is definitely cool. Now, I want to talk about this for a sec because if you haven't used it, or if you have used it, maybe you agree with me. This thing, it's very light, so you may want to tell yourself to use more pressure, but it's definitely a test in pressure discipline, because meaning that you got to use zero. Look at the blade exposure. Look at the blade exposure and the blade gap right here. Pressure discipline. If you use too much pressure, this thing will rip your face off. Look at that. So it won't really rip your face off. But be careful. Be careful. It's very loud audible wise because it's light and it's Bakelite, basically plastic. So the sound is not very muted. It's loud, man, which is kind of good because it's going to remind you to use less pressure. Sometimes the heavier razors, it'll mute the audible feedback, and you'll almost subconsciously maybe think that you're not putting enough pressure, so you'll put more. Don't be fooled by that with any razor really, but more so even with the more aggressive stainless steel heavier ones. But this one is so light that the audible feedback is so pronounced that it reminds you that don't use any pressure, because look at that. So very efficient though, very efficient. If you're careful, it's very user friendly if you mind the pressure and just be careful. So it's a fantastic rate for the price, 20 bucks. Great buy, great buy. Wanted to mention that. So the soap I used was actually a sample that I got from Douglas's table, and it's the First Dew. Now look at the picture. It's first of all, it's Crown King formula, so it's vegan, cocoa butter, shea butter, and avocado oil, I believe, among other things. But those are the ones that jump off in the top of my head. Notice the fireman motif in the picture. Now, if you don't already know, this was made in collaboration with John Perry, who was a fire marshal in Schertz, Texas. I mentioned him in my last video. He gave me a coin. Great guy. Now, Douglas and John evidently had been, and this whole story is on Douglas's website, but Douglas and John had been in talks to develop a soap. Now, evidently, from what Douglas said, John's favorite scents were Dapper Doc, the Sandalwood, and the Harvest Moon. And John had asked Douglas to maybe incorporate those three elements of those three into this. The purpose of creating this soap and the accompanying aftershave, which I haven't got yet, was to part of the proceeds, $3.60 if you buy the bundle, $3.60 are going to go to the National Fallen Firefighters Association, which was the charity that John Perry chose for the proceeds to go to. Now, the scent characteristics, I wrote them down here. On the top you get, where'd I put the container? Anyway, on the top you get apricot, jasmine, and smoke. The smoke sounds like it might be a little odd. Obviously, it goes with the fire idea. But the apricot is what you got right on top. And it wasn't really like in your face fruity apricot, but that was the first thing I got. And then the smoke kind of added just that well, that smokiness to it. It kind of toned down that fruitiness of what the apricot might get you, and it also had a little bit of floral with the jasmine in there. So it was pretty evident on first. And in the middle notes, you had a little dark chocolate and coal. The dark chocolate I kind of got, and coal, I'm not sure. I mean, I think of charcoal briquettes, and I didn't get that. So, but the little bit of dark chocolate you got it on the base, you get oud wood and West Indian Bay, and the oud did kind of come in later as I was building the lather and building it there. So the fruitiness on the top with the apricot, and then finally the oud wood and stuff on the bottom really rounded it out really well. So fantastic job, Douglas and John, on the collaboration of this. Now, the reason he called it First Dew, here it is. What I did was I took out a few, I scooped out some with my finger and placed on the bottom of the scuttle and just lathered there. And the lather, I attached a picture as well. You see the lather built up really easy. And then with the Manchurian, it was a fantastic combination. But I want to talk about the, you know, kind of the characteristics and or the reason it's called First Dew. Now at first, again, First Dew. I wasn't, the story behind the name, I kind of, I figured obviously it's going to have something to do with firefighting, because that's kind of the whole idea. But on the website, I'm looking, yeah, it's Michael's Tablet with Charlie Brown. What's up? I'm going to read a little bit from the website, and there's kind of a long story behind it that Douglas wrote. As he does with a lot of his scents, he'll kind of have a backstory behind everything. But what he said was he describes, look at this guy. Look at the mug on that guy, John Perry. But he talks about how they came up with the ideas and the development behind the scent and everything that goes into it. But he said he asked John to kind of come up with a blurb he can put on the website with a scent description, talking, you know, from a fireman's standpoint, and talking about the scent. And he goes into, so John evidently wrote, it's a few paragraphs worth of basically a small novel about firefighting and kind of a story behind it. But he opens it with this, and please bear with me. He says, it's either late in the night or early in the morning. It's hard to tell at times, as these times will often blend together. It has been another long day training for the events you hope will never happen, and running call after call to help those in need. You anxiously drift in and out of sleep, trying to calm yourself from the day's events. Suddenly, there's a moment. You feel it before you hear it. The lights in the station come on with the intensity of the afternoon sun, and the tones drop. There seems to be electricity in the air. This is not a drill. So then he goes on to tell a little story about kind of responding to a call. And then he talks about what First Dew means. What does it mean, you ask? Well, we all have our own definition, but for me it's this. It's a rush, a job to do, decisions to be made, a struggle to play through, a challenge and a battle to be fought and won. We as firefighters live for those words. Defeat is never an option. First Dew means you are one of the few privileged to see and assess the fight ahead. The first one to beat the Doran, the first one to walk into the dragon's den and slay it, the first one to know that the beast won't die easily, the first one to feel the triumph when all are safe and the job is done. That is First Dew. So, First Dew means you were there first. You're taking command of the situation. If you're first responder, law enforcement, firefighter, whatever, you know what it is. When you're the first one there, you're in command until somebody senior shows up. And oftentimes, even if somebody senior, when they do show up, you're still in command because you were the first one there. You were the first to assess the situation. You were the first one to start making decisions and telling people what they need to do. So being the First Dew is huge because you are in charge, and a lot of times the decisions and the fates of everybody there is in your hands. So First Dew is a big deal. So reading into it more and finally using it, it was just all around a fantastic experience. I really enjoyed it. I honestly don't have the bundle yet. It's definitely next on my list. I have a list of a few things that I am after, and First Dew is at the top, John. So I will participate, and I will contribute I will help in contributing to that Fallen Firefighters Association. Everybody else, the bundle I believe is $41 and some change on the Phoenix website for the soap and the aftershave and the Crown King formula. And again, $3.60 from each bundle goes to the Fallen Firefighters Association. So that was today's shave. Thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for joining me. Again, Big Shave was a blast. Representing So Sharp Limited, David, shout out. And that was my shave. So everybody, I hope everybody's well. Have a fantastic day, and we'll talk again soon. Bye.